Hi everyone, my name is Fredio, and in this video we are going to take a deep dive into building a full CRUD application in Golang using MySQL. But before we deep dive into Go code, let's first set up our MySQL database and table, as we need to place to store our data. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, for the first I will activate my web server. In here I using WAM as a web server. Already activate, and then I'm using the Beaver as a tool for database. And then I'm connect to MySQL database and create new database. We call it employee DB. And set it to default. And we need to create a database. Now we have our database. Let's create a table to store the employee records. Create table employees. We have ID. And then name. And then age. Alright, we have the ID. This is the primary key for the table, and we are using auto increment to automatically generate a unique ID for each new record. And we have name. This column will store employee's name, and we are setting it to varchar 100 to allow names up to 100 characters long. And this age, this column will store the employee's age as an integer. Alright, after running this command, your table is ready to be used in our Go application. Let's execute it by Ctrl Enter in here. Alright, already success, and we go to table, refresh, and we can see our employees table in here. Alright, with our database and the table setup, we can now start coding our Go application. So I will create a new folder in users, my users, Go, and we create new folder in here. We call it Go MySQL, and we open it in Visual Studio Code. Alright, I have opened up an empty directory in Visual Studio Code, and we are going to start by creating a new Golang file in here. We call it, let's call this main.go. Alright, and remember that Golang need to package it. We define a package main. This is the entry point for our application. And inside this file, we need to import the necessary package. We are going to use database SQL package for database interactions. And we will also need to import the MySQL driver by open the terminal. And if you have not installed the MySQL driver yet, you can do so by running go. We need first to initiate our project. Go mode init. Alright, go mode file already appear, and we install the MySQL driver in here. -u github.com go SQL driver MySQL. Alright, and enter. Alright, already installed, and we can see in here we have our dependency in go mode file. So we back to main.go, and we need to make a function main to make a connection to database, and we need to define like this. And before in function main, we need to define a struct to represent the data we will be working with. In this example, we will be managing employee records. So let's create an employee struct with fields for the employee struct, and the fields is the same with the structure of table. You have an ID and name, and it's alright. I give it an ID is an integer because the table is integer, and the name is string because we have name as a varchar in here, and the age integer because we have age as integer. Okay, now we have got our struct setup, and the next step is to connect to our MySQL database. In function main, we will use SQL open to open a connection. So we define the first is db and check the error, and we need to SQL dot open, but there is something wrong in here, but we will fix it later, and fill it with MySQL, and we need to define our username, password, TCP, and make it in localhost, and work on port 3306, and we need to define database name employee DB. Same with our database in here, employee DB. And we need to check error if no connection in database, then print error. And we need to make sure that our username, so we check on our connection, go to localhost in here and edit connection. As we can see here, we have root and the server host is localhost, so we use this username. And because the password is empty, so make sure we replace this username with root. And because the password is not stored, we fill it with empty. And there is no again. And we need to remember that to close connection with differ.db. So create differ db.close. Alright, everything is set up correctly. And then we need to test the database with go run mine.go. We got this error because our MySQL database driver not imported. So to fix this error, we need to define in here with underscore, and we need to copy paste our driver in here from here like this, copy and paste in here and save. So we have no error in here, everything correctly, and we run again. Oh, if there is no error in here, it means our code is interact with a database. Then let's move on to our first CRUD operation. For creating a new record in the database, we will do this by writing a function called create employee. And the parameter is db.sql, so we can connect the database.db. And the parameter is name as a string and age as an integer. Why we not define the ID? Because the ID is automatically generated, because in the database we set it to auto increment as a primary key, so we don't need to define our ID in this function. And then we need to create a variable for MySQL result error, we check the error, and db.exec and we fill it with command and SQL. Insert into employees. We got employees as a table name. In here we have table employees, so I passed it into in here, and with column name and age. We don't need the ID because auto generate. Values, and the values is get from our dynamic. We give it like this, and name age. Everything's fine, and then we need to check the error. If error is not null, or if there is error, so we need to print a log, print the error, and then we need to check an ID. If there is ID persist in database with the same ID, so we get the error. We check in this, so let's insert ID, and we check it the error too. We print the error, and we need to print our data for showing that our data is successfully created in database. New employees ID, Sandy, and this, and printf. Alright, and then we got error in here because we have not used it yet this function, so we need to define in here. Let's call it create employee, and the parameter is db, and the name, my name, and 31 like here. Okay, we will make a data to store in our database. We clear the terminal and we run this code again. Go run mine.go. So if we execute this command, the data Fredio and 31 is stored to database. Let's check it out. Go run mine.go. Alright, already successfully in here. So we check in our database by click employees, to click in here, and we go to data. As you can see here, we have successfully insert data in our database. with ID 1, name Fredio, and age 31. And then we have added a new record. Let's see how we can retrieve it. We will write a function called getEmployee, and we have parameter same like above. Not to be the same because we need ID. And then we create return in here, employee. And then we create a variable employee. Refer to employee. And we need to select. We use query row to execute select statement that retrieves the employee's data. We use query row. To select ID, name, age from name table, employee, where ID ID, and then we check the error. Then we map this data into our employee struct using scan. So we need to here employee dot ID. This will show automatically, and name employee dot name. Same right here dot h. Alright, and then we check the error of this query. And then we print the error. And then we return to give it the value of employee. As we can see, the error appear in here because we don't use this function. Okay, we will use this function, get employee db, and the ID is 1. Alright, so while we execute this function, we will get one data that is ID 1. I mean this. The value is Fredio, age 31. But before we start the function, we need to comment this so we can not create the new data. We just get the data that already in database. So go run mine.go. Wait, yeah. I think we need to comment this. Alright, and then we execute. Oh, we forget to printf. In here, fmt printf employee, and here employee percent fees and right, and then we run again. Not in here. Alright, we have data in here. Or we can do like this. Go run mine.go. We will have the same result in here. So we already success to read the data from database. If we run in here, we can show the data, ID, name, and age. And we have to make a new function that is for record. We will write a function to update the existing record. We write here func update employee and we have db scale employee but it's not like here. Name string and age integer, and we need to execute and check the error. db.exec id name. Okay, we know that update employees, set name, age, and then where id and name, age, id, like this, and then we check the error, and then we print the error, log fatal error. Alright, and then we print the data from database. And then we this and right here we got the error because we don't use this function. So this is function to execute update statement in here. Update employees, set name, to change the employee's name and age. When and then we print the message to confirm that the update was successful in here. And then we need to call our function in here. So we need to comment this. We call this function update employee db. The parameter is db and the id 1 and the data from Fredio. I will change it to Navis and 28. Alright, we can execute this. While we execute, we will change the records that id1 in here with the name Navis and the age is 28. We try it. Alright, already success. Let's check in database. Right click and refresh. So the data was already updated. Now we can successfully update the data from our code. And the next is we need to try to delete the data that already stored in database. So the next is I will comment this function so we cannot execute it. And finally, let's write a function to delete a record from database to delete employee, and this function will remove an employee based on their ID. So let's create it. Func delete employee, and then dpsql dbn integer like here, and then we define to check the error db.exec, and we delete from employees where ID, like here, and we check the error if L, then we print the error, and then fmt dot printf employee, we give it a description deleted. Alright, and then we got some error in here because we don't use this function yet. Okay, let's use this function delete employee db with id 1. Alright, and this function executes a delete statement to remove the employee record from the database. Just like the other operation, we print a confirmation message that after deletion. Let's test this by deleting employee we have been working. ID is 1. First we check in on database. The data is still exists, and while we execute this function, the data will remove from database. Go run mine.go and execute it. Alright, successfully delete, and we need to refresh our database. And as you can see, we don't see any data from in database. So actually we have successfully execute this command. Now we have covered all CRUD operations. Let's try everything together in the main function. Here what our main.go, and that's all. In this video we have built a simple but powerful CRUD application in Golang using MySQL. We start by setting up a MySQL database and table, and we walk through each of CRUD operation. This example is great starting point for anyone looking to work with database in Go. If you found this tutorial helpful, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more programming content. If you have any question or run into the issues, feel free to drop a comment below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.